Hello, everyone. Corey here, coming in to do the energy update. And this energy update is for the week of the 20th, January the 20th, and following us, of course, in through probably into the end of January. This is the beginning of some new energy. And so we are shifting gears again. So we do have that shifting of energy. Now, this is the day of the USA's inauguration that I'm recording this video. And so yesterday the world woke up to that TikTok kind of frenzy that happened the night before. And then just like that, TikTok was back. And so all of this collective energy influences us. It has an effect on us. And of course, everyone is experiencing something. Everyone is always experiencing something, whether it's a great day or it's not a great day. Everyone is in an experience, and it's their truth and it's their experience, and it's to be valued. It's to be guarded as a sense of that's their right to feel how they feel, and so everyone is experiencing something, whether it's a great feeling, a great day, or whether it is a day of challenges and struggles or being upset. But if we all were in the same energy, the world would not be able to evolve and revolve the way that it does. So there is a lot of movement that's happening. And one of the things that came up for me as I was preparing for this, and I started preparing for this recording yesterday. Yesterday was a crazy day. And so I did share one of my meditations that is freely available here on YouTube. If you go into the playlist of meditations, and you can see there's a select number of meditations that are freely available. Others that I release at specific times. They belong into the More Than Existing Academy that we own. Um, and so these are freely available and you can use these meditations, but it was an energy clearing. It was to find our way back to home. And where's home? Where's home? Where's the home? So people often ask me this, and I never really think about this because it's just such a natural thing for me. But where's home? So home to me is back to center. It is back to it is back to our light. It is back within ourselves to feel the sense that I am safe with me. Being with yourself should be the place of where you absolutely can regulate and find yourself being really connected to self. So when I wrote the book Wine and Chips, which I'm just actually looking around to see if there's one actually by me somewhere here, but I'm not seeing one. And so in Wine and Chips, when I wrote the book Wine and Chips, which was my third book that I had written, and that one totally just came from a place of no, it's probably it's the fourth book written, I do believe, but the third book to come out. The book that we're editing right now is called The Way, and that book will be out in the spring. Or sometime around there. We don't have a set date. Don't want no pressure, Lisa. Um, but The Way is the book about our sense of connecting to our own spirit, to being very connected to a higher expression within ourselves and to that higher authority, and to be able to allow our divine thoughts, our divine inspiration, and our divine sense of safety and security. But also, it shifts and changes our language. The Way was, or Wine and Chips, I actually wrote that book as that sense of revealing how kind of crazy it is that we are so far away from ourselves, or that we create the whole identity. We live as these personas that we create, but yet we believe it's ourselves, but it's not our truest of self. It is the self that we create for safety, for self-preservation, for protection. And so I write it by the expression of creating the character of Rose, because we all create these characters that we live in. And the reason why I use Rose is, and the reason why I have Rose there and I'm talking to Rose is that sense that we're always communicating with our thoughts and with our mind. And so we hear those voices, or not everyone, I guess. I did not know this, that not everyone hears the voice of yourself speaking to yourself. That's something else I didn't know. So I didn't know. I see these are all things that I just thought in the beginning of my journey in life, was that I thought everyone could see. I thought everyone could see beyond. I thought everyone could not just hear a word, but could hear a full sentence, a full conversation happening. And so when you hear that voice that's communicating from, I call it my soul self, my highest regard, my highest expression of myself, is, or even hearing my shadow talk, is that it will be like a full sentence. Now, it is not like, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, but it is not like this, the schizophrenia, you know, definitions of something that causes you to do harm or to harm yourself or others. That's not the way this voice is. It communicates very differently, and it communicates with, so the thought, I get one thought, but it's not just a thought, is that there's a conversation that happens with that thought, and so it's an internal dialogue. And so there's always a lot of internal dialogues that are happening throughout the day. And so that's where Rose began to find her way in. And so Wine and Chips, I really feel like, is a book, a place of where we are right now. I don't share the how-tos. I share stories and share stories and experiences of how this, from this crazy version of myself, is that I evolve and heal by really truly learning the power of listening, by dissecting my own conversations, by hearing what comes out of my own mouth, and by asking God for a higher inspiration, or asking for there to be a, you know, to dissect something for me. Show me where I am being swayed in the wrong direction. Show me somebody else's light, and reveal to me my own shadow. Reveal to me how I'm showing up. Reveal to me that I may be the one who is misinterpreting wrong, or I may be the person who's, you know, who's reacting and responding from my shadow. Reveal my shadow to me. Reveal the archetype of my shadow. And so that is the way that I wrote Wine and Chips from. And so listening to the shadow, because all we've ever wanted to be in our lives is to be heard, to be understood, to be accepted, to be well, I guess, listened to be, what else? Whatever else falls into that core category. And so we find ourselves chasing that, or to please, or to make sure that we're the good girl or the good boy, that we want to be seen as somebody. We all want to be as somebody. And as I found my way back, was the realization that we were already somebody, but the somebody that we were was being shredded away, because it was being criticized and judged, or being told that that's not who you are, you're this is who we are as a family, this is who we are. And finding my way back through that narrative and that story, as I speak about my relationship to my invisible, to my imaginary friend that I had as a little girl, and the imaginary friend's name was Jesus. And that this person, this avatar of this energy, was the evolution of realizing that we are told so often that we cannot be good, that we're not good enough, that we're not enough, that we believe that we can never obtain this level of, say, benevolence, this level of higher regard of the virtues. We're told that wherever we are, whether it's religion, whether it's in the school system, is like, you always got to keep achieving to be more, because who you are is not enough. So instead of cultivating who we are as enough right from the beginning, and working with what we do have, working with the elements of our identity, and the sense of our sense of innate characters and characteristics, is that the systems have really truly always been created to, not to enhance that part of us, to get us to go a different way, to get us to go to a way that makes us belong somewhere else. So then we forget that we already belong within ourselves. And so it is the way back, and it's the way back home, and the way back, but it's meeting the shadow. So Wine and Chips is really one of those books that is about meeting the shadow and having the conversation of the shadow. The shadow can be the most fun in the world. It can be the party girl, boy. It can be the fun loving one. It can be the one that is the temptation. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And being that team player, and being the leader of the team, and being on board, and nobody recognizes that we're chasing the shadow, that this is the shadow. This is not our truth. And that's where the rebel comes in. And so in that, and the evolution of Rose guiding me to her own death, right? Guiding me to the death of the shadow, which is the integration of all that the shadow teaches us. And the shadow aspect teaches us so much about who and what we are. And so without using the psychology, which I am not, without using any of that, the only thing that I know that I am and I'm a professional at being is Corrie. And I know me better than anyone else would possibly know me. I know the good, bad, and the ugly. Why? Because I came home to make a choice to study me, to really look inward and to take that journey inward. So every book I wrote was not about the people. It was not about if it was going to sell. It was about me listening to God and listening to this higher self that just says, you're going to write books. You're going to be a writer. And I'm like, I'm no writer. And if I had to accept that I was no writer, because how could I possibly be a writer if I can't even barely read a book? But I do know how to read. I just don't know how to read. I know how to read, but I don't read the same way probably somebody else reads. I find my own way. I open up pages, I highlight pages, and before you know it, I got a whole book read, but I've read it kind of all over the place. And by reading it all over the place, is that I have gotten the story because I've landed on all the right places, on all the right pages, and all the right places for the right time in my life, for where I was and for how I was ready to receive something, open to receiving, open to understanding. And so it brings us back into the sense that no one gets to decide if we should be discounted or if we should be on the top shelf. If I'm valuable enough to be appreciated, to be a keynote speaker on a big stage, or if I speak in front of two people, it doesn't change the value because I'm still communicating and doing what I'm being called to do. And that is to be a channel, a vessel for these messages. And however they use me and however they place me, the divine places me in this world, is I have said yes because I've answered my own call, that I would have the courage to travel deep enough within to stop crucifying self, to stop being so cruel and unkind to self, to stop believing the narratives and the stories that trail us in life, but to set ourselves free, to be liberated, to be in this place of where you know that when you know who you're not, and you keep trudging forward and moving on, and you know your value. When you know your value, you know your worth, but when you also recognize that everyone else in your life is on the same journey, maybe traveling different paths, but we're here to find our way home. We're here to find our way back to ourselves, back to this place. And so through the journey of Rose, through the journey of listening to and remembering and recollecting all of those experiences with the divine, with the celestial, with the angels, with all of this was to be mirror reflections that in the higher regard within ourselves and beyond, is that there is a world. There's worlds within worlds that exist if we return to the innocence in the eyes of the child that can see beyond the narrative and the stories that limit us and the limitations of that can't be possible. We can't allow that. That's not possible. That's not the way we do things. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Who knows? How do we know? And sometimes we just got to be willing to try listening to that voice and listening to that self. And this is all in this energy today. It was in the energy yesterday. It is back in the energy today. And it's coming back around, which really makes me smile because it's those beacons that guides me to know that this is the light, and this is, is that this is the way. So when your light hits that right other light, the door, when you get to the door, the key opens that door, and something opens, and something begins to follow us through. We get to follow through to the next journey, into the next path. And it all begins with how we view who we are, and who we think we are, And what we really are could be very different. And so we could have many past lives, we can have many past experiences, but you're not your people of the past. You're not the version of you that was in your past. You're not the version of you that exists in the past. So why does answer this for yourself? Why does the version of you today have to keep paying the price or trying to make up for something that is not really lacking in your today, or something that you're still punishing yourself over for past mistakes or past experiences that didn't go the way that somebody else told you they should go? Maybe they went exactly as they were meant to go. Maybe they unveiled or unraveled the way they were meant to, so that it could activate a chamber, a door within you that opened up to give you the strength and the courage to fight back, to be stronger. Not now, we are not justifying crappy behavior at the hands of people who had no right. That is there's darkness and there's evilness out there in people, and people behave that way. And that is not in any way anything that you were meant to experience, and nobody can tell me we're meant to experience those things. Is those are things that other people's we exist in a world where other people have free will choice, and at the gate and the doors of our choices is where I always say this is where the Lucifer energy sits. And it's masked as going to be your friend and going to help you to get you to go the wrong direction. But when it can no longer hide, and when you recognize it for what it is, you recognize that that's wrong. That's wrong, because it is. I know that to be wrong, because we all have a moral compass, and we all have a divine expression that is within us. But if you keep cloaking the dark, cloaking out the light, eventually the dark becomes the voice that guides. And when we keep standing too long, making friends with the inner enemy, is the shadow begins to walk ahead of the light, because the shadow stops listening to the light. And when we stop listening to the light, we start going in the wrong direction. And we get lost in the world, things that are not going our way. And when you get lost in what's not going your way, before you know it, your shadow is leading your life, it's running your business, it's running your relationships, and it's interfering with, and it leads you down the path of doing things that are really were never aligned to what it was that the light was here to do. And so this is speaking to us everywhere today. I'm seeing it, feel it, and I'm out in my garage. This is my other office. This is my space that I set up for when I'm working with people in person, but it literally looks like a hangout. So I have a it's patched together. It's got paintings of Paint Me Beautiful everywhere as I'm creating that copyrighted deck of cards. Um I it's my space. And so it has so much imperfection, but there's something about when I walk through the door and I walk out here, something changes in the energy. And so this is a place of where, it reveals the imperfections, but how we are a patchwork. But yet we keep trying to turn ourselves into a Persian rug of perfection, right? It's like we keep trying to turn ourselves into this cozy, perfect little quilted version of ourselves, instead of accepting the patchwork. Dolly Parton has a song called The Coat of Many Colors. And that song has been an anthem for me since I was a little girl. And when I was young, my mother decided she could be a seamstress and she was going to make me a figure skating dress. And this is in the book of More Than Existing, I do believe. And she was going to make me a figure skating dress because she didn't want to pay the money to get me a dress. I can do this, she said. I'm a seamstress. I could do this. This is easy. It's only to put together this spandex lycra material. So she decided she was going to do this. And everything in my heart and in my gut knew it was wrong, but it was out of my control. There was nothing I could do to change it because I wasn't buying the material. I didn't have the money to buy the dress. I was at the mercy of my parents buying me that dress. And so her refusal to buy the dress was the thing that led down this path of me having to really truly um walk through an experience that I can look back and I can laugh at, but I did not find it funny at the moment. And I still don't find it's not funny. It's hilarious now when we think about it, because but the experience wasn't funny. It moved and shifted me into a direction of losing a sense of self, self-worth, and self-value. That this was a big day for me. It meant something. It was my end of the year figure skating. And we didn't buy a lot of dresses during the year, and you put in all of that practice, and the dress is a bit of a reward for that hard work that you put in. And so I had picked it out, and it was pink, and it had a lacy back in it, and it was so pretty. And so the dress that she decided she was making for me was going to be royal blue. She went out and she bought those little pom poms that are on the bottom of old lamp shades. She bought a flower that she was sticking on it, and she got the sewing machine out, and she started to sew that dress. And as she sewed that dress, is she was all proud of herself. Like, look at me, I'm doing this. And so this was her shadow. This was not my mother's truth. This was the shadow expression of herself. She was feeding the hungry ghost, and she was really living in the persona of the identity of being the jokester, being that kind of clown energy while overshadowing and her role as a mom, but also playing. She was playing with my heart. She was playing with my day. And this is only something that we've been able to heal and resolve throughout life. But um, but when she had the dress made, she says, "Oh, I come home from school," and she's all proud of herself. "Oh my God, I got your dress made. You have to try it on." And I put the dress on, and I just broke down into absolute tears. It had one sleeve all puffed up over here, the other one was down here, one was down over my hand, and this was the day before our figure skating. So I already knew that I was not going to have a dress, and I didn't know what I was going to wear, and I was trying to find things that I could put together. So who was the parenting thought and who was adulting in that situation? I was self-regulating and self-preserving for the humility, for the shame, for the disappointment that was already existing, that I was existing in prior to, because I knew where this was going. This was a cycle, this was a pattern. And so in that experience, I put it on and I just started to cry. And then, of course, my brother was home, and we're only 10 months apart. And the conversation, it was just like they both start laughing and making comments, and I was heartbroken. And this is where my mother seen my sadness. And she knew in that moment that she had to jump into action. This is where a light went off. And this is where our higher expression of ourselves comes in. She'd seen something. She recognized something. And she got on the phone and she called up some friends who lived in our hometown where we weren't living. And she called them up and asked if they had a dress that I could have for her. And the friend's mother said, "We have a brand new dress here. She's wore it once. Come get it." So my mother got in the van. This is winter time or early spring. And we drove an hour and a half to get this dress and to get back home again. And it was late getting there and late getting home so that I would have a dress for the next day. Now, all of this could have been changed. All of this could have happened in a different way. If she had have taken the right way and did the right things for the right reasons in the very beginning, and we would have had that dress. Now, the dress was fine. I would never have bought a dress that color. I would never, but I felt good in it. And when I skated, I felt good. Why did I feel good? Because in the end, my mother went and did the right things for the right reasons, and that she went out of her way to get me the dress. So when I did the healing work and I dissected all of the hurt out, and I processed all of the hurt, and I looked at it in the way my second book is written, is my truth of existing beyond the reflection. And it's like I could look at the person involved in that. I could break this down. I could psychologically kind of convey this back in a healthy way. I could see her shadow, but it didn't make it all right. It didn't make it okay. So how does it correct itself? Is I can't show up that way. And it's like, And so the cycle ends when we choose to end the cycle, to not to be that way, to not to do that. I didn't have her life. I didn't grow up in her life. We didn't know any better. She was never a mother before she had us two children. She had us early in life, but that's not an excuse. And so we don't make excuses for the behavior. We recognize that everyone has a shadow and everyone exists in the shadow, and you don't realize it is actually a shadow. You don't realize that it is that you're chasing and feeding your hungry ghost when you're in your determination, when the will of the shadow has overridden any part of the truth of knowing that, what am I doing? Why am I wasting my time on this? Why am I getting stuck in this? What am I trying to prove? Why am I trying to prove this? And this is a huge part of spiral dynamics, because spiral dynamics works on the human consciousness, and the human consciousness affects and influences us. And that's why today we're talking about human consciousness, because that's what God told me to work on. Talk about the human consciousness, because the collective consciousness, which is that in our material world, that's affecting and influencing us today. And we're also seeing the hierarchies, and we're seeing all of this transitioning that is happening. So on the other side of all of that, and in my second book, My Truth of Existence Beyond a Reflection, it was my stories of shared that, yeah, things go wrong, but it doesn't make it right. And that, it's like truths are so half-assed. There's half-assed truths, and we fight for those half-assed truths, and we get so caught up in those half-assed truths, and we're so determined to live by those and follow those. And so on the other side of all of that, what I extracted from it was, and what I remember the most and what I brought back, was the joy of the journey of me and my mom traveling alone in the dark, laughing by this point, going to get a dress. After getting the dress, knowing the dress was beautiful, that it worked, and I felt good in it, and that I could bring that joy back. And so that's the joy that I extracted, so that I can smile. There's to the story, but here's the key. The key is to neutralize your own stories. Once you tell your story enough out loud, and you speak enough out loud, and you can, to yourself or wherever it is, and that you can learn to open your eyes and open your hearts to all perspectives, and that you can see yourself being the same shadow, being that shadow aspect, being your not true self in your own stories and narratives, not in their behaviors, but in yours. That they may have done that, but where have you done that? Have you behaved that way? Have you ever done that? And so it brings in a level of grace. And so that we all have these moments of humility to recognize that we don't have a space to get up on those soapboxes when we recognize that we're all human, and that human consciousness do affect and influence us. It was a very, I don't know what it was between myself being a figure skater and my mom, and that resistance with me being the figure skater. I don't know what that was. Sometimes I mean, she's still here, so I got to ask her someday. And so there was just this, I don't know, I feel like it's like it was where she could be honest about the pressures of life, maybe financially, but she felt safe with me, and she still does feel safe with me. And so we, as we move through that energy, and as you come on the other side and you take the joy, and I take those moments, and that then I can smile, and I'm not triggered by those past experiences. Why? Because they are resolved and they are released. And if we don't resolve anything and we don't release anything, it grows legs and arms, and it becomes the little monsters. And those little monsters become big ass monsters that you have to continue to feed. And we're always trying to feed them through the perspectives of narratives of stories. So it's like, yeah, I might not like what's happening today. I don't have to agree with what's happening today. And I'm not saying I do or don't, just talk about the energies that are here, is that, but it's happening. It's happening. So are you going to keep letting moments of life rob you of your joy that you can extract and bring in to the experience? Are we going to keep holding the past versions of ourselves and others so hostage to something of the past? Or are we going to move into living and existing from the experience of who you are today? And this version of you that's here today has the ability to be the adult and the parenting thought. And through the adult and parenting thought is about knowing that I am worth creating a sense of happiness, a sense of joy, that I don't have to live my life being angry, resentful, that I don't have to live my life in all of those experiences, because experiences are going to give me moments to be sad again, to be angry about. But we're not here to hold on to all of the experiences of the past. We're here to move forward. And so, what this energy today does give us is the opportunity to begin to move forward. Whatever that looks like, who knows? But it is forward momentum. So, we have forward momentum energy that is moving us. And the forward momentum energy that's moving us gives us the opportunity to just say, what do I want to do? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want to exist in? And do I really want to keep existing in some of that old energy? And we got to be willing in those moments to release the stories, to release the narrative, to allow things to leave, so it does leave room for love. And yeah, grief is love. And so it leaves room to be able to step into the power of love to move through us. And when love moves us, life moves and changes and shifts. And that is where we are in all of this energy today. Now, I am going to share some cards with this. Oh, shoot. Did I not bring down the other deck? I had another deck I wanted to bring down with me. Well, see, didn't happen. Didn't go the way I wanted because I didn't bring down the deck. My two decks are here, and I'm going to use those as well. But, ooh, well, I guess I got the cards that I need. So I pulled out the 10 of Wands. And, and so what I'm getting with this is an ending. And so when we become when our shadow becomes so passionate and our shadow becomes so driven, is that the load becomes heavy, the why becomes destructive, and it becomes a never ending battle and a never ending war. And when we can free ourselves of the never ending battles and the never ending wars, we recognize something that peace, creating peace, being at peace is a much happier place to be. And so moving beyond that brings us into the card of justice. And justice is not about everything being equal. It is about balance. It's about what allows for everything to flow. If water only went like this, you'd never have a waterfall. You'd never have that waterfall to fall down into the next water. So if water only went like this, and it's like, well, the land is all level, it's all equal. And so the water just sits here, but it got nowhere else to go. It's just right here. Then it gets stagnant. But the knowing that here's this waterfall and you get to observe the waterfall brings us into the water drops down into another level. We go to another level. And so by just being comfortable, by hiding, by just creating some sense of, well, safety within I just got to live in this safe little bubble, and I got to bubble myself, and I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to know nothing. I don't want to experience anything because I'm too afraid. I don't like to be triggered. I don't like to be I don't like to be I don't like to be activated in any way. I don't like to be thrown off. So I have to have all of this over here. Then that means we're not existing. When we can learn to heal those parts of ourselves, is that then we know that life is always going to give us a drop. Life is always going to create a waterfall. And when we look back at the waterfalls now in our lives, we probably can see them as something different than they were in the moment. There's a fear of falling. There's a fear of door closing. There's a fear of a job ending. There's a fear of things happening. So it's like, oh, I job security. I don't ever want my job to end. So my job never ends. So I'm safe. But have you really lived? What else have you experienced? What else have you been through, right? And it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I've only lived in this one house, this one town, this one place. But what else have I experienced? Because this, there's no place like this. There's no home like this. Well, how do you know? How do you know if you've never extended out? How do you know if you don't open up? So these are just, you know, thoughts, right? So how do you know? How do we know if we've never tried something new? How do we know if we don't leave our comfort zone? How do we know? And so we create this sense of bringing everyone into our lives that agree with us so that we're never questioned, right? It's like so that everyone is on the same page, the same level. And if everyone is here, then we're allowed to do and be whoever the hell we want to be because everyone is making it okay to be that. And so life throughout our life is that the reason why we've been pulled and pulled away from ourselves is to someday to find our way back, to climb back, right? To get back, to take the journey back so that we can look back and we can see the landscape of where we have been and see that it's been not always fair, it's been unbalanced, it's been rocky, it's been this, it's been that, so that we can find our treasure, so that we can find ourselves. And so justice is about that sense of really looking at the perspectives with open heart, open mind, to just see that how and why things do what they do, and that our journey may not have been easy, but it became easier when we lighten our load, when we stop carrying the burdens, the weights of other people's thoughts, other people's beliefs, when we stop carrying our past and we start letting all that down and we walk as our truth. And we walk lighter, we walk freer, but we know we still have to keep going on the journey because the journey in the end is one that is well worth taking. And so at the very bottom of the cup, we have the Nine of Cups. And so the Nine of Cups is that she is up, she is out of the water, she has lifted up. And now she gets to, is that she's above all of those emotions that sink us down, that get us lost. And so the collective consciousness contributes to those emotions. But we are the ones who activate our own emotions. And activating those emotions is the thing that then creates the narrative and story. And then we live in this little dungeon within ourselves, and we live in our head. We create the narrative to the fear story, to the enemy. Whereas when we can evolve those emotions into a higher expression and living and working from the highest expression of ourselves or a higher expression of ourselves, is that we find a new relationship with the emotions and how we emotionally respond, how we emotionally react. And we can keep going on the unlevel ground and through the rocky territory and still be confident in knowing with faith and hope that we're going the right way. That we can be true to ourselves, be confident that we are still doing what is right, going the right way, and that we have what we need to walk into and through the world that is in each and every one of the present day. The key is that it is the right version of yourself that is in your own presence as you move forward. And we're going to end this one with a card from my Everyday Goddess Oracle cards. So the last cards are the Thelma Tarot. I got two. And then this is my Everyday Goddess Oracle cards. And my Everyday Goddess Oracle cards are available on my website. Let's just see. Not that many cards. They all just went clump. The Eye of the Beholder, Queenie. And this is such the collective energy that we have today as we are experiencing that momentum, that's trying to invite us to allow our light to walk ahead of our shadow, so that we are not torturing ourselves, we're not crucifying ourselves in any way with mean words, unkind words, and we are not being cruel and unkind to somebody else. Is that we are allowing our light to walk ahead of all versions of ourselves until the shadow can be integrated back into the light and become the light, to become the truth, to become the virtues again, because the virtuous self gets watered down with the vices and the spices of life. But when we step in to our most virtuous self, and it will never mean you're going to always be liked or loved, it means that you are finding your way to being the most authentic version of yourself. And that is the highest vibrating that you can be. Let's end with a card from Wanna Know a Secret. Whoa, this one flipped right over. Card number 24. I don't have glasses out here. So this is card number 24. Maybe hard for you to see. I don't have a lot of light out here. So the key to a brighter future is beyond the veils of illusions you once called truths. The present moment is where ahas appears. Don't dwell on the past or worry about the future. It has not yet to unfold. Instead, concentrate on the current moment and use it to create a vision for a better tomorrow. What would I like to feel more of in my tomorrows? What would I like tomorrow to feel like? What would I like for all of my tomorrows to feel like? Because the more we carry the past into our todays, and into our tomorrows will look just like our past. And we are not here to keep living in recreating the past. We're here to extract the treasures, to take the treasures and amplify them, to grow them, to grow and cultivate, and to be able to enhance and to teach the version of the self that we should have been growing and enhancing and helping to mature all along. And that is the highest expression of ourselves. And that is our greatest truth. And so beyond the veil, there's one truth. But do you honestly believe that that one truth is going to be fully revealed? Because if people were given all of the vision, all of the truth, what do you think ego would do? Because the one thing we have that the celestial realm doesn't really have the same is our ego. And so heal and resolve the truths around the identity, around the ego, and we can resolve the truth of we can find the truth that aligns to who we are in these very moments, in this very present day. I send you so much love, and thank you for being here. And if you're interested in studying with me, I am beginning on Wednesday, the More Than Existing Level 1 of the More Than Existing program. And then in February, I have a 6-month mediumship mentorship program that's beginning. It's a new style. It's a new way of teaching the mentorship program. We're going to meet once a month for 3 hours at a time. And we're going to engage in the deep conversations of connecting with spirit, connecting to our own spirit, connecting to the light, and in the power, connecting to the power and being able to stay in the power, and doing some deep dive work. But then in between that 1 month period is that you will receive 3 videos each and every month for each week that will be released, that will be on the teachings that I will be including for the whole mentorship program, where you will also engage and work with fellow students and work together, and we'll have breakout rooms, and we're going to work together in circles and really truly get the truth and the power behind what mediumship is really about. And it's not all about everyone becoming a medium and stage work. And it's about being able to communicate with your spirit, to be able to live with and from spirit, and not so much connecting to the egoic or to the mind, but to a deeper truth. So if you're interested, all is on the More Than Existing Academy, mteacademy.ca. My cards, both decks of my cards are available on my website. Go to CorrieThorne-Cameron.com. All the links are in the description below here on YouTube. And the cards are sold directly on the website, but my books are on Amazon, but you can get the links directly on the website. And if you purchase all of my work all together in a package, then I can send you the cards and the books all together as well. So, and I am still accepting one-on-one clients, so I'm still working one-on-one. You can book with me directly on my website, and donations and buy me a coffee link is available below so that we can keep creating and doing this work and sharing all of these videos with you. And I want to give a big thank you to all who is supporting and subscribing to my YouTube channel. We have finally, after 5 years or so, we have finally hit the just over 1K mark. Because I'm like, I've done this all naturally, all organically, and there's only 2 people that work with this team. And that is myself and my dear friend, Lisa Richard of Loving Energy Recharge, and the other face and other owner of the More Than Existing Academy of Higher Consciousness, who shares her work there as well. And it's just the 2 of us. And so that's how we have done things. That's how we work. And we are still working our way through, keeping going, and so that we can share these messages with you. I send you so much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will speak with you soon. Much love. Bye bye.